My name is Tamara, and my prom night did not go the way I wanted it. It all started a week before the dance, when my friend Maddie suggested we have a sleepover, sneak whiskey, and watch scary movies. This was an annual tradition for us to celebrate our liberation from the bondage of school. Senior year, our last one, was extra special. Naturally, I said yes. Maddie and I had met freshman year and bonded immediately over our mutual love of scary things and being the only goth kids in town. We were both fascinated by monsters, the occult, anything dark and creepy. So I wasn't surprised when I showed up and saw that Maddie had filled her room with candles and set up a Ouija board. I was so stupid. So fucking stupid. Poor Maddie. I miss you. The worst part is I don't even remember exactly what happened that night. We drank, laughed, discussed what we were going to wear and do on prom night, shouted at the ghouls on TV, shouted at any ghouls that we thought were in the room with us. I remember us both cackling at one point because we'd started using the Ouija board to convene with the ghosts over what horror villain was hottest. Pinhead was a fine chunk of man-meat, right, oh heavenly spirits? I proclaimed, pushing the planchette towards yes. Maddie giggled and took the planchette from me. Hotter than Vincent Price from House of Wax? Way hotter, I insisted. I'm gonna have to disagree, she slurred, grinning. I can't get enough of Vincent's goatee, pointy mustache combo thing. It's very Spanish Explorer. Now, if I could just land a guy like that as a prom date. She paused and steadied herself, then promptly fell backwards with a thud. The forgotten planchette went flying. Conquer me, conquistador. I'm yours. Things went hazy near the end of the night. I remember feeling a chilly breeze and thinking it was strange, since it had been oppressively muggy all week. I remember the chill was followed by a sharp burst of nausea punching its way out of my midsection, followed by the disjointed thought, oops, sick, drank too much, followed by a long and blissful sleep. The next morning, I woke up, puking. That part wasn't a huge shocker, but I did get scared when I opened my eyes and saw wings. Insect wings, small, maybe an inch long, and translucent. They floated in the brownish-yellow sludge of my vomit, defiantly geometric. It was early enough, and I felt shitty enough that I decided to ignore it. The nausea faded, but I still felt achy all day, and I threw up a couple more times that evening. No wings this time. I chalked it up to drinking too much on an empty stomach. I must have been so dehydrated I imagined it. Sunday morning, I was puking again, and this time, what came up terrified me. It wasn't just wings. There were small chunks of some dark-colored material. I remember how they scratched my throat raw coming up. When I realized what they were, I dry heaved. I recognized them immediately. They'd been all over the previous summer, with their rainbow translucent wings and stocky little bodies. Their spawning season that always garnered fascination from entomologists and local news stations because it only happened every 13 to 14 years. They were cicada. Before you even ask, no, I did not tell anyone I was throwing up bugs. I was terrified I was going to die or get in trouble, and I kept telling myself that it would soon stop. I had barely cleaned myself up when Mom yelled it was time for church. I sat through the entire service with a dull, throbbing headache. The headache seemed to dissipate once I stepped out into the fresh air, but the all-over body aches and pains continued into the week. I stopped throwing up bits of bugs, but I did start to worry that I'd be sick for prom. I couldn't miss it. It was the only one I'd ever have. By Thursday afternoon, Maddie had cornered me to ask what was wrong. Shaken, I explained, but made it sound as though I believed I had just gotten too drunk and then gotten a stomach bug. Disappointment shrouded her face, and she asked if I thought I'd miss prom. Feigning confidence, I assured it I wouldn't. We talked as we walked home from school, and by the time we got to my house, I was almost feeling normal again. That feeling vanished as I passed our neighbor's cat, Squeaks, on the sidewalk. Normally friendly and outgoing, she recoiled and hissed when I tried to pet her. I'm sorry for what I did to her. Unnerved by Squeaks' reaction, I told Maddie that I was going to lie down and went inside. I ended up sleeping through to the morning. I woke up with the cool early morning air on my skin, feeling better, although there was a coppery taste in my mouth and nausea still hung in my gut like an unwanted pregnancy. Contentment soon gave way to confusion as I realized my t-shirt, clean when I had gone to bed, was crusty, as if something sticky had dried on it. Confusion transformed into horror when I got up and felt something small and wet fall out of my lap. Squinting, I knelt to see what it was. Once I was able to shake my sleepy haze and realize what I was looking at, recognition bloomed like a horrific flower in my mind. Soft and furry, but with one end glistening in telling red, the cat's calico paw sat motionless on the carpet. Its presence clanged through my room like a chorus of locusts. I told my mother I wasn't feeling well and had to stay home for school. As soon as I heard her car cruise down the block, I got to work. The previous year, my mom had gotten it into her head that we needed a home security system, which I think came from the tech nerd she was dating at the time. She and Bryce had set up some motion sensor cameras, and like a true millennial, I helped her set up the online account. Spoiler, the security system lasted longer than Bryce. As I logged in, a disquieted eddy gently churned in the pit of my stomach. I hadn't checked the account in a while, so there were a lot of new clips of raccoons and stray cats wandering around. I skipped forward until I got to the only one dated 5th of the 7th, 2017. At first, all the video contained were some swooping bats and the occasional possum, but it wasn't long before I saw a cat pass by on the sidewalk. From the left of the frame, a figure, human-shaped, streaked over and seized it. I was glad there was no audio, because I'm sure I would have puked again. The person clamped the cat tightly in their arms. You could see the cat squirming frantically in the unwelcome grasp. The person fell to their knees and buried their face into the cat's back. Through the grainy image, I could see dark liquid showering onto the grass. The cat's squirming became more forceful, more frantic, until it stopped. The figure lifted the limp little body like it was an ear of corn and continued to ravage it. A few seconds later, the lights of a car glowed from the other end of the street, and the person skittered away on all fours to a darker corner of our yard. I sat there open-mouthed and wordless. There was one detail in that video that filled me with an icy, detached terror, yet I wasn't surprised to see it. At one point, the shadowy cat killer had wandered close enough to the porch light that their t-shirt was visible. It was an old 9-inch nails shirt. It was my shirt. Shell-shocked, I couldn't bring myself to do anything other than sit at home immobilized and watch daytime TV. What do you do in that situation? Despite all the evidence, I still couldn't wrap my head around what was happening. I couldn't tell my mom I ate the neighbor's cat. She'd have me committed to a mental institution. I thought about calling Maddie, but I was afraid she'd think I was crazy. Denial seemed like the best option. Prom was the following day. I wanted to dance with my friends, dress up, and wear weird makeup. I didn't want to be sick, or throwing up, or involuntarily devouring other people's pets. Maybe that's why I deserved what happened. Prom night came, but I felt like I was forcing a happy face while dying internally. Maddie came over and we blasted the Halloween Metal Pandora station while we got ready. My mom ordered pizza, but both her and Maddie gave me strange looks when I insisted that I wasn't hungry. Somehow, I felt bloated, even though I'd barely eaten anything that week. My stomach was alive with prickly pain all day. Like all the other weird shit, I ignored it. It was prom night. I was so close, I just had to put it aside long enough to enjoy myself. I should have known it wouldn't work. Maddie drove us to school, and we'd barely gotten through 2 songs before a cramp shot through my midsection like a lightning bolt. I remember feeling reassured that the dark gym and strobe lights would hide any strange movements I made. I straightened up and waved off Maddie's concerned expression, until a few seconds later when the cramp returned, this time retaining its vice-like grip for a few seconds before dissipating. Heart pounding, I felt sweat rise on my brow. I gave Maddie an apologetic look and mouthed the word bathroom to her over the noise of the DJ. Clutching my abdomen, I staggered out of the gym and into the blissful quiet of the girls' room. Fortunately, it was empty. I was hoping I wouldn't throw up. I had gone all day without doing it, but as soon as I closed the bathroom stall, I felt my gorge rise. Trying to breathe calmly, I fell onto the toilet seat. It felt like there was broken glass churning in my stomach. I slumped forward, suddenly burning with heat. Droplets of perspiration fell into the bowl and made small plinks into the water. I tried to wipe away the sweat with some toilet paper, but dropped the damp wad when another cramp came. This one so strong I let out a cry. I pushed both hands against my stomach, willing it to calm down. It didn't. Another cramp seared through me like a welding torch. I started to knead at the cold, clammy flesh, half out of nerves and half out of the vague idea that it would calm my misbehaving belly. The next few moments I have played back in my head more than 1,000 times. I was hunched over the toilet, clutching at my midsection and panting in pain. 3 things happened next. Something inside me pushed back. I screamed. I barely had time to register the thought, "What the fuck?" when the bathroom door swung open. I clapped one hand over my mouth, not wanting anyone else to ask what was happening. It was too late anyway. It was Maddie.
Tamara, will you please fucking tell me what's going on?
I didn't know whether to be relieved or scared. I blurted out,
It's fine, Mads. I'll be out in a minute.
The low, thudding bass of the music from outside seemed to expose the fear in my voice rather than concealing it. She wasn't buying it. I'd been acting weird all week, after all.
Bullshit. Look, if you're sick, it's not a big deal, okay? It doesn't matter if we miss prom. Fuck it. If you're this sick, you need a doctor.
Her words hung in the air, and above all the fear and anxiety and pain, I felt only gratitude. I never got to thank her for it. Another cramp hit me, and this one felt like the final boss of cramps. I'd never felt anything like it. A huge, solid mass slowly descending through my body, stretching everything until it couldn't stretch anymore, ripping me in 2. I screamed again and maintained the sound until it became a wail. Wetness started to spread beneath me. In horror, I lifted myself and saw blood soaking my dress and trickling down my thighs. Maddie must have seen the blood too, because she started pounding on the stall door.
Jesus, Tamara, you need a fucking ambulance.
She never got a chance to make the call, because at that moment, something fell out of me into the toilet. It mewed. The pain started to subside, and I took my chance to get away from whatever the thing was. Falling to all fours, I pushed open the door and crawled away, gasping for air. Maddie's face was a mask of concern underneath all the makeup. She took me in her arms for a moment while I sobbed and heaved. There was a trail of scarlet leading from the stall to me. I could still feel the blood, slower now, but still flowing, pooling underneath me as I lay. After a moment, Maddie got up and went over to the stall. I didn't have much time to cry out or warn her. I'm sure she thought I was just another scared pregnant teenager. She didn't know about the cicada, or squeaks, or the pains I'd been having. She thought she was going over there to check on a normal human baby. Terrified, exhausted, and dazed from the blood loss, I lay weakly against the opposite wall. Maddie peered into the toilet. She managed to scream for half a second before tentacles, 3 or 4 of them, shot out of the bowl and wrapped themselves around her face. They pulled Maddie, arms flailing, into the bowl. I'll never forget how she writhed and fought. Oh, Maddie. This is the part where things start to get fuzzy for me. The doctors and my court-appointed psychiatrist later said it was from the blood loss. The tentacles squeezed, impervious to any of Maddie's kicking and punching. It simply waited until she went limp, collapsed against the porcelain, her knuckles dragging against the seafoam tile. Then it raised her high above the toilet by her ankles like a cow for slaughter. I moaned and reached out, trying to stand up, but I was too weak. Like a fish, my mouth gaped, but no sound came out. Maddie, still inverted, started to spin. A thick gurgling emitted from the bathroom stall as she was pulled towards the beast in the toilet. Her hands and arms disappeared first, the red spray coating the cheap metal walls. There was a crunching, and her body jerked downwards, one shoulder first, then the other. The crunching intensified as her ribcage was crushed. The thing let out what I can only describe as a belch, sending a geyser of water, blood, and pureed tissue into the air, soaking me in my best friend's remains. For a moment, the thing lifted Maddie's corpse up in the air, and I could see meat and entrails hanging like ribbons from her shredded waist. Tears streaming down my face, I covered up my eyes and took solace in the only mantra that would comfort me. This can't be happening. It can't be happening. It can't. Can't. Silence overtook the room. I started to fade in and out. Shades of gauzy gray encroached on my vision's periphery. I vaguely remember hearing the soft sound of something rubbery hitting tile and feeling the slight wind from the bathroom door opening and closing. In delirium, I thought, oh good, Maddie must have gone to get help. I lay there for who knows how long, until someone from my grade came in and found me. After that, it was a blur of IVs, emergency lights, and scrubs. So, that's the story of how I got here, to my little padded cell I've called home since that day. I woke up in the hospital, handcuffed to my bed. A stone-faced local deputy explained to me that while I wasn't under arrest yet, I was under suspicion of murdering my newborn son. My shock was apparent because he raised his eyebrow and explained what they discovered on prom night. I'd been found covered in blood and semi-conscious. Maddie was missing. In the toilet bowl was a baby boy, small and dead and blue-faced. The coroner had determined that baby was born alive and then choked to death. But since they couldn't get a definitive print off the body, and with Maddie's whereabouts unknown, they couldn't charge me for his death. They had found some of Maddie's blood at the scene, but not enough to imply she had died. They suspected she had wandered out, injured, and would turn up eventually. I knew Maddie wasn't going to turn up, but I still asked why he thought that. He responded, "There was a pretty obvious blood trail leading from the bathroom to one of the gymnasium exits, but we lost it once we got outside."